So good morning to everyone that's around the world. I know that people are joining us literally from many different continents, and we are streaming this morning from Santa Fe in New Mexico, and we're being also joined by Lee Edelkoort in Morocco and me in Greece, because we're here to celebrate diversity and global culture. And it's all in aid of the International Folk Art Market, which of course is the mesmerizing and inspiring event that takes place every July in Santa Fe, and is
very dear to my heart.
And is very much back at 100% this year. So that's why we're celebrating it. And also, as part of today's World Hope Forum, we're going to be contributing as much as we can to IFAM's many different initiatives. And in a second, we'll hear more about them. But for anybody that hasn't already contributed, I'll be sharing a link in a second in the chat, and you can use that at any time to make any donations of any size. For anyone who doesn't know, my name is Philip Fimmano, and together with the Edelkoort, we founded World Hope Forum about 2 years ago. In the beginning of the pandemic, we decided to use hope as a device to inspire change for good for people as well as the planet. And I can't think of an initiative which is more closer to that idea than the folk market in Santa Fe. So before we introduce two people from that team, maybe Lee would like to share a little bit about her experience at IFAM, because in fact, you were the ambassador for the market, I think in 2017 or 19, I don't remember. It was many shopping moons ago, but it was an amazing experience, and we all became very much attached, and so much so that I was even invited to join the board, which I'm very pleased to be part of. It's now my 3rd year. So it must have been at least 5 years ago that we were there.
Yeah, that was a very important voyage in our lives, I think, because we had encountered artisans all over the world, obviously through our forecasting work and trips and so on. We had been on it, if you want, and we were already aficionados of crafted items, but I think it was in this market that it really hit us, you know, how much it is a total lifestyle, how much it is a solution to problems, how much there is a future in this way of working, how interesting it is to compare countries and then see minor differences, but also a lot of coordinated things. How wonderful it would be if you could bring one brand to another country, you know, make the fabric here, do the dyeing there, do the handcraft, embroidery there. It's hugely inspiring. We spent too much money because we were also with friends. It's a very famous market. Maybe not everybody knows this, but it's the market where all people of fame in fashion and design have to go and have to be seen at least once in their life. So it's always, you know, a thing like, ooh, who is here? You know, it's like a little bit of paparazzi here and there, but in a very soft and gentle way. The city itself is mesmerizing. You would want to move there immediately. We were staying in a very cute hotel, which was entirely made of ceramic tiles. So that was like being in a little wonderland. I was inspired from beginning to end. The shops in Santa Fe, the quality of the people, the quality of the restaurants, everything was thought about, everything was very human. Santa Fe, it's really, I mean, I don't think it is in the United States, actually. I think it's a state in itself, right? It's a state of bliss, of beauty. And for those who are in need of bliss of beauty, please check the Valentino Couture show of 2 days ago and you will cry. It's amazing. And it concerns all of us, that sort of message that in these horrible, horrible times, that actually beauty is also a form of activism. Not just therapy, it's also activism, because producing beauty and selling beauty and communicating beauty is very much part of what we can do, whereas in many other domains, we are helpless, right? We cannot make gauze or something, but we can make beauty. So yes, thank you very much for Santa Fe to exist. We wish you a very long life, and we want to come again, and let's have this beautiful talk. So, several of the speakers I know also how interesting their speeches are. So I'm looking forward so much. Thank you, guys.
Thank you so much, Lee. So now we're going to introduce Melissa Mann, who is the CEO of the Folk Market in Santa Fe. She has been with the organization already for many years and has become an inspiring and driving force as of this year. And so I congratulate her on everything that she's been doing along with their remarkable team. It's really quite miraculous if you consider with a small group of people how much impact can be made, not just in Santa Fe, but reaching all corners of the planet, right down to every small little tiny village. So it's really a global source of energy and inspiration. So Melissa, could you please welcome today's program, and which you helped co-curate with me, and also just tell us a little bit more about the Folk Market for people that aren't familiar, and any other information you'd like to share.
Thank you, Lee. Philip, thank you so much, and welcome to everybody joining us today. I am graced to be part of an amazing team and to work all day, to Lee's point, with beautiful things, beautiful people, and the beautiful traditions and inspiration that are inspiring all of us. Santa Fe is definitely one of those, and I think we'll talk a little bit about the importance of place in art and creativity. But this is an event that's fairly unique. Of course, there are art markets all around the world. This one tries to bring people in from many, many countries in a very curated way, but to create connections between cultures, to work with the types of art that reflect a long heart line of tradition and practice and materials, as well as those that are moving forward, carrying those traditions forward in innovative ways. We are here this year with 151 artists from 49 countries. They're being joined by 6 artists from a few places in the United States, as well as from some of our Native American pueblos and reservations. And you can imagine the fission of energy and creativity that takes place when you have masters from around the world coming together, sharing their techniques and their work. This year, we're still a little bit small in terms of guests, but we're welcoming more than 16,000 people over 5 days. And it's a group of people, I think, who are interested in that connection, who want to understand that you don't need to rely on machine-made things for beauty, and that appreciate that the handmade requires hours and hours of work, practice, decades of practice, and they're willing to pay the prices that you need to pay for these things that are crafted with that much care and with so many hands. I had one artist tell me that in her home country, when items are purchased, sometimes they have a little tag that says this item was not touched by human hands. Her note is to tell you that no, that's wrong. My items are touched by many, many hands. And so that's the spirit that we're trying to represent here in Santa Fe every summer. And we do that, I think, every year. We go through a juried process. It's a very rigorous 2-step juried process. And it's not just looking at the quality of the art. It's really looking at who is working not just at the top of their craft, but what else are they bringing to the equation? How are they working within their own communities? How are they dealing with sustainability issues? Yes. And how are they dealing with those issues when the world is changing? How do you create art if your family is sick, your family can't get food or materials, or the next generation has moved to the city because they have no other option for economic development? And then the question for us is also, how do we support that outside of just the 5 days of market itself? And we do that because we have this just amazing group of advisors, which includes Philip, as well as Peter Speliopoulos, who's a member of our board and our creative consultant. And I know that he'll share with us, but what is exciting every year is the mystery of what we see emerging from artists collectively. They haven't necessarily coordinated what they're doing, but nonetheless, you see these common flashes of things that are developing.
Yes.
Yeah, I think it's always interesting when we see even trends within the craft and art community. So that's something that Lee and I definitely noticed when we visited. What was some of your favorite things that you saw this year, Melissa? Or what was something that maybe you bought, which is an easy...
Oh, now I'm in trouble, Philip. You know, and this is definitely an occupational hazard to be surrounded by these amazing things. The first thing I would say, and it's not something you can buy, it's the opportunity to exchange the stories. It's meeting people from around the world and watching our guests who come in and who think they're going on a shopping trip, and then find out that what they're really getting is an experience. They're getting a connection.
Mm-hmm.
And so the item that they may purchase is now imbued with so much additional meaning. And that's what we're really trying to work on. I would say, first of all, we have for the first time ever in our 18 years of markets, an artist from Finland. And so every time we bring in a new country, a new voice, a new experience, I think it just resonates throughout the crowd.
Mm-hmm.
We have 38 first-time participants. We want to be able to keep bringing new people into that conversation. And I think, you know, one of the stories that just really resonates with me is a group from New Zealand. And Peter and I were talking a little bit about them this morning, and they work in a hand-twined feather cape tradition. But they have been, because of political and economic pressures, they've been removed from their native Maori community. And so they're working outside of that, trying to obtain their natural materials, where they work under a different legal system and might not have access to the same types of feathers. They're working outside of a strong community of individuals, so they're somewhat isolated, but they're absolutely committed to trying to perpetuate that expression of their community. And so when you see what is absolutely just a gorgeous feathered cape, but when you think about all that it represents, and they're just this concerted effort to keep a hold of that tradition and still be able to move it forward. So.
Yeah.
And Peter, you've also been involved for many, many years. I'm not sure what your first experience at the market was, but I guess it may have been when you were working as a fashion designer. Is that right?
That's right. I mean, I have had the great good fortune to know Judy Espinar, one of the founders of the market, from New York, from the New York days when we were both working in the fashion industry. And Judy migrated out to Santa Fe and founded the market with her associates or colleagues around 2004. And I have to say, I've been to every market since then, with the exception of one. And I've been on the board for 10 years. And I'm also a member of the placement committee, which, as Melissa explained, is part of this two-step process through which we vet, jury the artists coming into the market. And this year, I was also honored to give some kind of creative direction to the market, which was really exciting. And the ideas for that kind of emerged during the placement committee meeting, which was in October, to select, to give the final, let's say, idea to for the market of the artists that we were going to actually bring in. Because, you know, the first step is kind of to decide, is this really folk art? Is this the best of folk art? And then in the placement committee, which I share with about 8 other colleagues, we really decide what is going to make a great market. Like, what is the best of each category? What is the best from these countries? What is a kind of a democratic market in terms of pricing, in terms of inclusivity, in terms of all of what we want to also foster great sales and great enthusiasm. And so during this meeting, we had talked a lot about this new emerging feeling of like folk minimalism or sensibilities of being rooted in place, because I have to say, in all of the years that I've been on the placement committee, I don't think we ever had such a strong sensibility of new work that was really towards a minimalist ethos, such as Finland, which Melissa was mentioning is a first-time participant. There was just in every category, textiles, baskets, clothing, home goods, of really amazing serenity and a really amazing focus on raw materials. And unlike much of the amazing folk art which is here, which is often painted and, you know, elaborate and exquisite, this had a new look. And so we just, well, I just thought, as regards the ambiance for the market, we would go forward with this kind of new theme because it felt so strong and so fresh. And so it just felt right this year to honor the materials that these folk artists have been working with since the beginning of time. And those materials which actually define that which they produce, because it doesn't seem obvious, but in fact, those pieces can never really be reproduced anywhere because they're working with, you know, the clay that is right there on that riverbed, or they're working with bamboo, or they're working with wood, or they're working with minerals or plants that create the natural dyes. And that's why ceramics in Peru are different from ceramics in Mexico, are different from ceramics in Japan, because all of what they have been working with since forever is local, is where they are. And I think that, and the beauty of nature, the great inspiration of nature, which is, I think, for me, the universal inspiration, seemed like that which we should really like embark on for the ambiance. And also because of COVID, this is really our first full market, because last year we had a different situation as we were emerging from the pandemic. So it just felt like a great opportunity to reset and create a more natural natural homage.
And I think part of that, Peter, was also the fact that we're seeing so many stories of sustainability coming from the artist community. People are finding that those plants or the insects that they use for dyes, the bamboos or even the clays, are in jeopardy. Partly that's climate change. People who, particularly indigenous artists who are used to working within their own regions, are finding that the plants are moving out of their home territories, and or they may no longer have the rights to collect them as the regulatory system changes. So we're seeing really art as a political voice in commenting on that. We're also seeing the artists who are just very reflective of how they use those materials. And what I found fascinating is walking through the market over the past few days, the issue of water came up with almost every artist. And so in working with these spare and very natural materials, as we decorate even our own market footprint, we want to start having an interrogation of those issues, but also make sure that we are being as sustainable as possible in putting on a major event.
Yeah. So I designed these kind of sculptures, which the IFAM staff and the amazing group of volunteers that we have here, because we have how many? Like
this year we have a little over 1,200 volunteers.
And so it's extraordinary. So these individuals have taken it upon themselves to find very creative and inventive solutions to, let's say, the sketches that I provided for these kinds of tree sculptures. So we found weathered trees and tumbleweeds, which are so much a part of the landscape of the Southwest, and created these amazing sculptures with chicken wire and tumbleweeds, very pure, very simple, again, harking back to the idea of a new kind of minimalist ethos, and an homage again to nature. And so many people were grateful and made comments about the fact that there was such a lack of waste, and B, the integration of the beauty of the natural landscape of New Mexico, which for those of you who have never been here, I mean, you just absolutely must see it at one time in your life, because as Lee said, it's beyond magical. And it's one of the great magical places in the world, like Morocco, like Greece, like so.
We need to see some photos of this work. Can you find photos during this hours we have?
I'm not sure that
I can't, but I mean, I don't know if Philip can pull them up from my Instagram, but I don't know how to do that. So
well, I think
they will check out your Instagram while they're listening to the other speakers and try to pull up some of these amazing sculptures. But I think that it sounds like it's something that has to be seen to be believed, like everything at the market. And I think what's so important about this event is that you have to go there physically to meet the artisans, meet the artists, and see their work, to hold it in your hands, to talk to them. And what Melissa was saying about their stories, you know, this is real human connections. It's not something that translates very 100% into Instagram. It's really a very real experience. So I see that some people are already asking for the dates for next year. So I'm not sure if they've been set yet, but I imagine that it's going to be in July. And so I encourage people to perhaps follow Folk Art Market on Instagram or join the mailing list through the website. There's plenty of events that take place during the year, which includes trips all around the world, conferences, pop-up markets in other states, as well as auctions that are even now online. So there's plenty of things that are taking place during the year. And through that connection, then you will be sort of first in line, I guess, to find out when the new market dates are and book tickets in order to be there in real life.
We welcome everybody here. And you know, just what the other thing I would say is Santa Fe is an area that not just is it fantastically physically beautiful, and you will never find light like you have here anywhere else in the world, but everybody is interested in that creative spirit. So many people work in the arts, and even if they don't, they somehow connect into that spirit that's just everywhere around town. And so, you know, I just, you can't appreciate art unless you have people here to appreciate it. And so having people come in and be part of this experience is what makes it so very special.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think the point about storytelling is really key, as Melissa said, and Philip has mentioned as well. I think when you, first of all, are so drawn into the beauty of the art, and that was another reason why we felt we didn't have to make a big decor statement, because the art is really what it's about. The art is so powerful. The art is so glorious. Really, it is, and so diverse, that when you speak to the artists, and I think what's so unique is having the artists here who can tell you that, you know, this wall hanging took 1.5 years to make, and that somebody can only do, I don't know, 4 inches a day, and that this is a tradition that goes back, let's say, from Dagestan, from the 17th century. And then you see that this is made in, you know, 2022, and you also understand that, you know, these artists are trying to also teach young people in their communities about these traditions and about the handwork and the handcraft that's required for the future. And you really understand, I think, the importance both of the future and of supporting these artists and these communities around the world. But you also are connected to stories of the past. And I always kind of feel like Marco Polo when I'm here. And I really do. And I just feel like it's an amazing world survey. And it's not just about the pieces. It is really about the sharing of the community and the international spirit, I think, of beauty and craftsmanship and I don't know, socioeconomic history.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And humanity. Well, we're going to start the seminar or the webinar by looking at some of these stories through several of the artists who participate at the folk market, as well as Melissa said, and as Peter mentioned, people from the greater Santa Fe community, people that are working also in the same direction, but also off-site during the year. And we'll be closing today's conference actually by hearing from Santa Fe's 6th poet laureate, So we'll be finishing the day with beautiful poetry about diversity and race. Thank you to both of you very much for making time to be with us. I know that
we want you both back ASAP.
I know I'll be.
We miss you too much.
We'll be there definitely next year. And I see that you're in a library today because the Museum of American Indian on Museum Hill, I think, has
the Wheelwright.
The Wheelwright Library is hosting us this morning. So many of the artists are going to be presenting from there and then getting back to their stands afterwards. So have a good remainder of the market.
Thank you.
And thank you for being with us this morning. And I can't think of anyone more appropriate to look at than the work of Porfirio Gutierrez, who's one of IFAM's most involved artists and having such an impact on many, many lives. He is actually a California-based Zapotec textile artist and natural dyer who's born and raised in the rich, historic Zapotec textile history. And this is, of course, in Oaxaca, in Mexico. So we're going to screen now a short film, which goes for about 7 minutes, which will introduce his work. And then we'll come back and we'll hear from several of the other artists who are there this year. Thank you, Melissa. Thank you, Peter.
Thank you. Have a great day.